morning. Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us again. And we have a special guest, Leah Marie Serna. She is a yoga instructor. So yoga involves being devoted to living a life of self-discovery, to be willing to look inwards and to experience the freedom of a peaceful and joyful existence. Leah's into yoga opened up 30 years ago when she began to awaken to self-healing and inner connection. She was introduced to Hatha yoga and meditation during an extended stay at Muktananda's Brahma's ashram. Hopefully I didn't wreck that. The sacred Tansa Valley in India, and maintained this sense of connection over the years through her continuing yoga practice. She has also attended many Vipassana 10-day courses in Merritt, BC and Alberta to explore the depths of meditation more intensely. Leah is trained to 500 hours teaching level and has been teaching yoga exclusively for the past 7 years. Nutrition goes hand in hand with yoga. She also graduated as a certified holistic nutritional consultant for the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition in 2011 and trained for 300 hours as a yoga and Ayurveda wellness consultant. Leah was born and raised in Alberta, Sherwood Park, and then Farintosh. And in her child raising years, she lived on the west coast of BC for 20 years, 16 of which she lived on the Bowen Island with her husband, 2 boys, and 2 stepchildren. 5 years ago, she and her family moved back to Alberta and feel happy to be back on the prairies under the big skies. Currently, Leah is a co-owner, studio manager, and is teaching yoga classes at Studio 9 in Camrose, Alberta. So welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're really glad you could share some space with us today and just talk maybe about some of the benefits of yoga. And I mean, myself, I love yoga. I do yoga once a week at the moment, and we've been to your studio to do a sound bath meditation.
And we were there for yoga too.
Yes, we did go there.
Yes,
for
we
yoga
did go for yoga. It was last year, I think we went for one. Yeah. So we've been there.
Yes, well, the Studio 9 has been through a little bit of a journey. It was formerly known as Sacred Arts Yoga in Camrose there on Main Street. And during the pandemic, a big shift and change happened. And so now currently it's Studio 9. And just a little info on why Studio 9 is because number 9, I don't know if you've heard of the Enneagram. Enneagram, and also just in numerology, the number 9 is known as the peacemaker number. And in the Enneagram, I'm also a number 9.
Perfect lines.
So it just felt perfect as a name for a yoga studio and also for something that I'm involved with, because peacemaking is pretty high on my list, being in the yogic realms of existence here. Yes, and yoga, gosh, I could just go on. I'm going to go on.
Okay, we want you to.
On yoga and the benefits of yoga. And if I could share just a little bit of my journey.
Absolutely.
Especially my introduction to yoga in India in my 20s. So that was about 30 years ago. I'm giving myself away.
Yeah, you are.
I'm giving myself away here. So that was around like 1993. I ended up at the ashram, and the Muktananda ashram. You did a good job.
Good job.
The names are not easy.
No.
If you've ever seen the movie Eat, Pray, Love, or read the book,
yep,
she's referring to that ashram in her book and in the movie. Muktananda was leading, and Nityananda before him. And then when I was there, there was a woman who was present, and her name was Gurumayi. And she was in the family. She came from the lineage. And so she was actually leading at the time. And it just so happened that she was there while I was there, which created a very powerful experience for a 20-year-old who's just like so malleable to just see her wandering around. And we would talk about her and just, try to spend time with her And somebody told me that she did 108 sun salutations every day. And
Wow.
sun salutations they're fairly complex flow movement that they would do in the mornings facing east towards the sun. And that just blew my mind. I thought 108
Yes,
sun salutations.
right. I remember a yoga teacher like a few years back. She said that. She says, well, really, the perfect would be to do 100 sun salutations in the morning. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, I mean, they're beautiful, but it's a lot.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I realized that she was quite a powerful woman on a mission, and my experience at the ashram was really profound. Every morning we would get up at 4 a.m. and we would chant the Guru Gita, which is a very long chant. I remember holding my little book and my eyes are closing and just thinking, wow, like, what is this? But something was really starting to happen in me. And then with the yoga, that was my introduction to yoga. I think I had taken some baby yoga when I was very young that my mother had enrolled me in, which I don't remember very clearly. So doing the yoga really introduced me to myself and to my body and my limitations of my body and moving in these different poses and shapes. You know, you're making triangle shapes. Some of the shapes have names of animals in, like downward dog. And this was very curious to me because why would they model these movements after animals? Right? So lots of questions arising, and just noticing that day after day, we were there for 2 months. I started feeling really good in my body and that I had more clarity of mind. I felt like I was getting in touch with something spiritual, but I didn't quite understand what that was. I was raised as Roman Catholic, so kind of that internalized sense of spirituality was foreign to me because I was constantly looking, outward for that. So I remember, and we all had to do jobs at the ashram, selfless service. So I was in the bookstore, which was perfect for me. And I think they align the jobs to kind of challenge you and also kind of align with you as well. And so I could read the literature and read all about the ashram and Muktananda and Gurumayi and Nityananda and help people as they came in. And there was this big walkway, this huge, they called it Dakshin Kashi, in the middle of the ashram, and it was massive with beautiful trees in the center and then grass. And then the walking path was all under the trees around. It would take about 30 minutes to walk around one way, and you always had to walk in one direction. I think it was counterclockwise. No, it was clockwise. Yeah, I remember now. And the sun was rising one morning. I'm 20 years old. It's like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m., something like that. And I'm watching the sunrise, and all of a sudden it's like I had this epiphany that all the love that I've been searching for out in the world, from this outward kind of awareness of that love always comes in from the outside, all of a sudden that flipped, and I realized, no, wait a minute, all that love is already accessible in me, and it should be going out the other direction.
Right.
That's beautiful. I agree with that.
Yeah, and this really strong feeling of self-love, like I'd never felt that before, that I didn't need anything external, that it was there already and I could access it. And that was huge. I think that was the pivotal point that just changed the trajectory. You know, you hear about these things, and I think that was it for me, for sure. And then my love for yoga just kept developing, especially meditation as well, doing breath work, moving the body, because you just come into this sense of connection with yourself. Yoga means union, it means connection. And so just really cultivating that strong inner connection allows you to connect with your world and with people around you.
Yeah. I love with yoga how every time you come to your mat, and that was a real hard thing for me to accept a little bit because I can be a little bit competitive. And so it was like every time you come to the mat, you're such a different person. And it's about your journey on your mat. And that's what changed for me, my love of yoga, because it was like, oh, it's okay if I can't, get in that move today. Maybe my body's, I've overdone it or whatever. And I loved the mind body connection with the breath.
Your personal space too, right? Connecting with your personal space is awesome. Yeah.
I quite often mention during my classes when I'm teaching that our yoga mat is a safe place that we can continue to return to work things out, like we work things out on our mat. It's kind of like a canvas in a way. We're painting this picture of whatever's going on in our lives at the time, like you mentioned. And energetically, we're releasing things, we're bringing things in. So there's a lot of like creativity almost that's happening on our mats.
Yeah.
According to where we're at in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all in different places. So, that competition kind of leaves at that point where it's like now, like there's times I've done yoga and I've had my eyes closed the whole entire time because once you get used to some of the moves, you don't have to
look anymore,
watch as much the instructor, right? So for me, I love that because then I can't be anywhere else except for on my mat.
Mm-hmm. And you're also having an internalized experience as well. Yeah. Which is really a beautiful part.
It is.
Practice. Yeah.
And so you teach Hatha yoga. Do you do any yin yoga or kundalini or any of those other forms of yoga?
I do everything. I started learning Hatha yoga, but my the first teacher trainings that I took were all yin yoga teacher trainings. So I took a 300-hour online yin training. I lived on Bowen Island at the time, and I had younger children. So just the idea of going to a school and leaving the island and trying to make that happen just was not computing for me at the time. So I opted for an online yin course that was quite extensive. And my father had just passed away around that time as well. Excuse me. And my husband asked me, because I was in pretty deep grief. And he asked me, well, Leah, what is your burning desire, for the rest of your life? Because you're almost starting this new life without your father. And I said, I want to teach. Like, I want to teach yoga. I've been a practitioner of yoga for, since 1993. And I think I started taking my yin training around 2017, around that time. And so I took that extensive training, and then I took a short 50-hour yin training with Bernie Clark in Vancouver. So I spent a week in Vancouver and did that live training with Bernie Clark. And Bernie Clark he's like top on the list for yin training and teaching. He's a lovely, lovely fellow. He lives on the Sunshine Coast now. And so that was my yin introduction. And because I was going through such a heavy time of grief, my mother passed shortly after my father passed as well. So in the period where I was at their bedside was probably about 5 months in total of just being in the hospitals with my parents, like combined. So I went into a place of burnout after that. My adrenals were fatigued. I had a really like debilitating back spasm, which just took me out.
No,
I was
ouch.
bedridden. I couldn't touch my toes, and that was just the depth of my grief. And I had to go through that journey at that time. So doing yin yoga was the only form of yoga. And for someone who's used to practicing every day, that was a bit of a yee. So the yin yoga, before I took the training, I was actually practicing with a teacher on Bowen Island, and she would just let me cry in the class. Yin yoga, you're holding the poses for longer periods of time. So you're not moving fast. You have time to contemplate and process what's happening on the inside. And so the tears would just come, and I'd be in these poses. And then during Shavasana, when we're, final resting pose of the class, I'd have big puddles on either side of my mat just from the tears coming. My teacher would just let me be in my process.
Nice.
She knew a little bit about what was going on, but she didn't try to, she didn't put a tissue box close to me or anything. She just let me be in my process. And I always remembered
Beautiful.
that I felt like I was held, but at the same time, she gave me space to just go through what I needed to go through. And so over time, just doing yin yoga, I was able to work through the
Beautiful.
adrenal fatigue and the grief a lot more.
Beautiful. Good for you.
Yeah, yin yoga is very beautiful. Can you explain sort of like the differences between like hatha and yin and vinyasa and the
Yeah,
kundalini and
absolutely.
I love them all, but
Yeah.
So hatha yoga, you'll get into a pose and you'll hold the pose for about 5 or 6 breaths. So it is very strength building. It builds a lot of heat through your core. I don't know if you've been in Warrior 2 pose, but you're very activated through the legs. Your arms are out to the side. There's a lot of cues happening, like lowering your shoulders, drawing your navel center, and you're just holding in the pose 5, 6 breaths, and then you'll switch into a different pose. So there are many poses in the class, but there are little pauses in between each one, just to give a little bit of space and for you to really settle into the pose, and you start to develop that strength and feel comfortable in the poses over time. Vinyasa is you're taking all these poses and you're linking them with breath. Breath is pranayam. So you're moving, say you're in Warrior 2, as you exhale, as you inhale, you reverse your warrior, and then you inhale and you're back to Warrior 2, and then you exhale and you're in extended side angle. So you're working with the breath with each pose to create this flow. And what this does is it creates this beautiful sense of cohesion in your body and mind, because you can't really think about much. You're focusing on your breath. It's one move after the other. And so it's a bit faster paced. Yin yoga is the slowest that you can go. You're on the floor mostly, and you're holding the poses for anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes each. So if you're doing a pose where you're doing one side and then the other, usually you do a couple minutes or a minute and a half on one side and then the same on the other. If you're in something like child's pose where it's just a singular, there's no two sides to it, you could be there for 5 minutes and just really just
yeah,
it
it can
gets
be intense
deeper.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on the pose,
Right,
right?
right.
And your the feel of your body.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
I like it all, but
Yeah.
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 Gets deeper into the joints and tissues as well, yin yoga, so you can really increase your flexibility more with yin over time. I find that that's a really beautiful gift of yin yoga, and also that time to have more contemplative time, because sometimes the poses when you're holding for that long, you can reach kind of a little bit of uncomfortable feelings. And so your mind is like, okay, when do I get out of this pose? How long has it been? And blah, blah, blah. It just goes, monkey mind gets activated. And so you need to work with that as well and return to your breath and just stay calm. And this also teaches you to, in times of adversity in your life, you're kind of retraining your nervous system to be able to catch yourself, take a breath, and get into that place of calmness so that you can work through these more challenging times in your life. And that's yin yoga in a nutshell. And kundalini, I love kundalini, and my kundalini training, I took a hatha. It was a meditation, breathwork, hatha, and kundalini 200-hour course in 2020 during the pandemic. There's this ashram and center in India called the Sattva Yoga Academy, and I've been wanting to go there, like in real life, because the teacher there I just really resonate with. His name is Anand Mehrotra, and so it was on my bucket list. I'm just going to go someday and take the 200-hour training, because they didn't offer anything online. But during the pandemic, everything jumped online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody could go to the center. So they said, okay, let's just put the trainings online. So I was just so happy. And I took the 200-hour, which also gave me my hatha and the kundalini and the meditation breathwork. So kundalini, you're working with your energy body. In yoga, there's all these different sheaths of layers around the body, like the bread body, and the energy body, and then, and it just goes out. I don't have them written down here, but the energy body is the prana Maya kosha. Oh yes, and the bliss body is after that, Ananda Maya kosha.
That's where we want to be. In bliss.
Yeah, you're trying to get to the Ananda Maya kosha,
Yeah.
that bliss body, and
Yeah.
that's very tied to the prana body, which Kundalini focuses on, because once you link in with the prana, the bliss will follow. So we do a lot of breathwork practices. The reason why I love Sattva Yoga Academy and what they're offering is that it's very feminine. I find it's a very feminine practice what they're doing. It's not so masculine like the Kundalini yoga from Yogi Bhajan, which mostly everyone is familiar with that. This is a Himalayan version of Kundalini yoga. There's different versions of Kundalini yoga. So the Himalayan version is very linked in with the goddesses like Kali, Durga, and there's a lot of chanting, like sometimes mantras and chanting and little chants with like finger movements, and you're changing mudras and you're chanting and you're doing stuff like this over and over and over. It becomes quite repetitive, but in that repetition, you kind of create this vibration within yourself that just really lights
It's
you.
incredible. I just had an opportunity to take a class of Kundalini. We had a retreat, and it was amazing. We did the Satanama,
Yeah.
and just the energy that you felt in your body from like not only yourself doing it, but also
The energy.
all the sound in the room was just, it almost sent chills down you because it was so beautiful. Yeah, I really loved it. I was like, I need to find somewhere to practice this because this is amazing energy.
Yeah, the Satanama is beautiful, that one. And the chanting and using your voice a little bit more. A lot of us are a little bit timid to express ourselves and using our voices in classes. And that's the sole reason why I still like to Om before and after. Not all of my classes, but most of my classes we Om. But the Kundalini class in particular, we do a lot of chanting, a lot of extra Oming. We have a very beautiful closing chant to the class as well. So
Nice.
you get that sense of expressing yourself, and we can be quite blocked in this energy center in the throat, Vishuddha. And so that is an important part of yoga as well. You have this internalized experience, yes, but you also need to have some form of expression in your practice to free up anything that feels stuck, you know?
Mhm.
So Kundalini, and also with my Kundalini classes, we do about half of the classes breath work and Kundalini practices, and then the other half is movement. So we have that aspect of moving our bodies, getting some, some circulation through the body. We're not just sitting the whole time
Yeah.
and doing the hardcore stuff. So it's actually quite gentle and
Nice.
welcoming. And
I'll have to check out your site online.
Yes, we will.
And
yeah.
because I really did like it. It resonated so much with me when I was there. And I think because I was in that particular spot and everybody was there for the same reason, it was easy to do the ohms and things like that and do the
Yes.
Satnama.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So that's great that you do offer it in your studio, because I'll be
We'll
looking
have
into
to go
that.
and try you out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that class specifically online just
Okay.
because during the pandemic, because it's so breath heavy,
Yeah.
like a lot of breath work and pranayama, I just felt a little bit like, ooh, let's not be together in the same room on this one. And so I've just continued to have it online because there is a lot of breathing, and some people do still feel a bit sensitive about that when they're in
Mhm.
groups together. But online, this is my
Perfect.
yoga wall here,
Perfect.
my living room, and it's cozy and fun. So that's an option. And then if you are at home, you might not feel so self-conscious about chanting or doing some of the things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it all. I think I've had a class in well, I've done all of those classes that you just talked about, plus
Mhm.
yoga nidra, which
Mhm.
is kind of like yoga, but it's kind of more like a meditation and inward, right? Like you're not flowing or moving, you're just sort of
Working.
but
with
it's a beautiful practice as well. I love, that's one thing, and I'm sure that that's what drew you to it too, is that inner, like you said, knowing that the love is within you and just having that space for yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Very cool. I
Yeah.
did yoga when the kids were really young, and it helped me to get my mind straight, because when you're raising kids when they're young, you need that time for yourself. And yoga gave that to me when they were young. I quit doing it so much. Not that I didn't like it, but I like to get back into it. Then I got into Pilates more so.
Mm.
So I like her and you too. We're always trying to find something else that we can do to see how it's performing with our bodies and what
Mhm.
it's bringing out of us, right? So yeah, very interesting.
Mhm.
Your studio is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And we had a pleasure of going in there and experiencing her studio, and I really enjoy it. It's so calm there.
Yeah.
It's very calm in your back
There's,
studio.
there's good vibes in there.
Yeah, it's very peaceful, and I'm grateful that we have that in Camrose, being such a small town.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
To have this opportunity to go and take part in that, and then some of the other things that you bring into the studio as well.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sound bath was spectacular.
It really was.
It was really amazing, and they are coming back.
Yeah, I already signed.
we're
We already signed up.
Good.
Like, oh, they're coming back. So, which is great, because I think it's so nice that you provide this opportunity for people to have these experiences that they might not otherwise have. So,
That's
yeah.
right.
So what else do you provide? Can you tell the listeners if they're in and around cameras or they maybe want to pop in, what
Hmm.
services you provide at the studio or online?
Well, right now we're just offering the yoga classes, like the all of the yoga classes have some element of hatha, vinyasa, a little bit of breath work. And we also have the yin classes. Um, the Kundalini classes are online. And on the weekends, one of the other co-owners, Greg, he teaches remotely for now because he has another location where he lives and he has a studio there. So what happens and what we're trying that's new right now is that while he's away, we're going to live stream him, almost like we're beaming him into the studio to teach his classes. So if anybody wants to have that studio experience, they can, because he'll be on the big screen teaching live from his location, right?
Nice.
So
Beautiful, yeah, beautiful.
so it
It's a
just gives an
wonderful
opportunity.
idea.
Yeah, it's because we're living in this age of technology now, which is just, it's really opened up.
Mhm.
And especially during the pandemic, everything jumped online, and now we're kind of weaving that in, and we continue to weave it in. Every one of our classes has an online option to it. So you can take all of our classes from home, or you can come into the studio and take the classes. And so by beaming Greg into the studio, it's a little bit of a different take on it. But he has a camera that, like through Zoom, he can see the people in the studio. They can see him. After class, they can also ask him questions.
Beautiful.
So we're just taking advantage of technology and making it work for our
Nice.
studio because we can.
Yeah. Well,
And why
and I
not?
think that's beautiful,
Yes,
right?
it
I
is.
think we need to embrace all these
New
things that are
things.
out there and yeah, and then it gets it out to even more people,
Yeah.
which is right, because some people might not have that opportunity to come to the studio. So having it remotely,
Oh, it's
both
beautiful.
online and in person, is
And
wonderful.
people are catching on to it more and more all the time, which is
Yeah.
it's about time too.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. But I mean, we're always going to have the old school that I like to go into a studio too. I think it's just the feeling of being there and meeting
Yeah.
people and the instructor, and you really get a hands-on with that too. It's beautiful. So it's nice you offer both
Mm-hmm.
to people,
But
you know.
not everyone has space at home, or they have children, or maybe their dogs or cats climb all over them when they get
Yeah.
Why do
I hear that a lot from people saying, I just need to come to the studio because as soon as I roll out my mat at home, the dogs are all over me, the kids are crawling on my back. So it just doesn't work for
No,
me.
it's like they know. Okay, we got her in one place.
Yes, yes,
Zone in.
yeah. And then also once a month, I lead a short meditation on the last Monday of every month. It's kind of a continuation from 2020 when I led a 21-day online meditation. We went for 21 days every morning at 8 a.m. And so now kind of that group and whoever else would like to join, it's just a free class, like the last Monday of every month at 8 a.m. And
Wow.
it's the Sattva meditation practice, which I learned during my training. And so what we do is we just do a little bit of breath work, and then we sit and meditate, and then we chant the Gayatri mantra 3 times at the end, and then we wave at each other and say goodbye.
Well, that sounds beautiful.
That's generous too.
That sounds really beautiful.
It's really quite sweet. And I've meditated for many years, and I did the Vipassana. I don't know if you've heard of those Vipassana courses, but they're like a 10-day meditation course, and they don't call it a retreat because you're actually working very hard during those 10 days. You meditate for about 10 hours a day.
Wow.
For 10 days in a row.
Wow, that's huge.
That is huge.
Yeah. So I did about 4 of those, and then I also served one as the female manager. So I was in charge of about 30 women who were taking the 10-day course. And that was an experience that I will never forget, because all these women were going through their process. Some of them wanted to escape. And it's a silent retreat. There's no speaking. Nobody speaks to each other. So we're passing little notes, in the hallway. And I was just very in tune with all of the women, and I would report anything that they were having issues with to the assistant teacher who was leading, and just making sure that everybody would come into the meditation hall, and then putting on the evening discourses and answering questions during the break time and stuff like that. So it was really intense, but a really valuable experience for me, as far as just, I don't know, just holding space for people in their process.
Yeah. I think that's so important, because and interesting, like I bet it was an amazing experience, because I don't know that a lot of people could and would have difficulty being silent
For that many hours. Yeah.
because that's our nature, is to, like, as much as we need to have the voice, because we need that aspect, that reflection and stuff that you get from silence, I love that. So
it's beautiful.
I can imagine that sounds like an amazing
It
experience.
does. You really have to have the time to do it though.
Yeah, it's challenging, I will say that. And slightly more on the masculine side of things, because you're sitting for really long periods and you get very sore, and yet you're sitting through it, and so there's this dialogue between the brain and the body that's quite loud sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, just finding that internal experience and being still. I was linking that to the meditation that I learned from Sattva in doing the breath work first, because I found over time that the breath work first before meditation really helps me settle in to the meditation a lot easier than just sitting, like just getting to your cushion and just sitting there. It just gives you a transition. It kind of stirs things up a little bit, and then you can close your eyes and just feel everything settling. And in that settling, it just feels like there's more calm. There's more of something kind of holding you down,
Beautiful.
So there's so many flavors of meditation, and many people have experienced different types of meditation, even guided meditations or mantra meditations, and you just have to kind of find what works for you. And for me, the breath work is just like, it's like
your thing.
just it makes me want to go to my mat every morning and do that little practice. It's like 20 minutes every day, and it's just perfect.
Yeah.
So that's what I share in those Monday meditations. And if anybody's interested, they can just pop me a message or come to the studio and ask about it. I'll put you on the list and send you a little email with instructions.
Perfect.
Because people have to know these things, especially in our area.
Yeah.
What you do, it gives them an outing as well. And people are always looking, I find, for something else to entertain them and give them that calm and the bliss. The bliss is what they're looking for, right? So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Especially in this area, we need lots of it. We really do.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely do.
Yeah. So go ahead. We'll be back anyway.
Yeah.
And all of these practices, they're not a form of any religion, or it's not, yoga is not a church or anything like that. And sometimes I feel, especially in this area, there's a lot of religious people, and that's wonderful. Everybody's doing their thing, and sometimes I wonder if there is kind of a question mark around, well, is it some kind of, like, what is yoga? Is it a cult, or is it part of some religion or organized religion? I mean, there are Hindu overtones to the mantras, and Sanskrit is a very ancient language that refers to deities and gods and goddesses, but it's all energetic. Like, all of these gods and goddesses are just aspects of ourself. Like Kali, she's your fiery, like when you're ready to just rah, that fiery element in the body. And Durga is that strength, and then all the other, Lakshmi, that feeling of generosity, of opening your heart, of giving, of receiving. And so they're meant to be qualities of ourselves that we're already embodying just by being.
Yeah. And I
Right?
think you do what resonates with you, because for myself anyways, the way that I practice anything is that if it doesn't sound right for me or fit for me, I either find a word to exchange for
Yep.
God or the universe, whatever it is that doesn't resonate with me,
Yeah.
and I fit it in, or I just make space for it and just allow it to flow through and just sort of, okay, I'm,
Yeah. we
because
can do
I
it this
think
way.
that's,
Yeah.
part of it too. But it was so awesome. Can you tell everyone where they can find you if they want any information about you, the studio?
Sure. We're at www.studio9yoga, and Studio 9 is written as 9, Nine, studio9yoga.ca. And you can email us at info@studio9yoga.ca. And my name is Leah Marie Serna, and I'm at the studio Tuesdays and Thursdays during the mornings, like until about 1 p.m. And then Wednesday evenings, I'm there. And so any of those classes, you can pop in. You don't always need to sign up. It's nice to know how many people are coming to the class.
Okay.
But if you are in the neighborhood, feel free to just pop in, because I'm there anyway. And we open the doors in the mornings 15 minutes before class. And now that the cafe is open, it makes it a little bit more accessible for people to drop in, especially for the noon classes, because the front doors are open from noon to 8.
Perfect.
And we welcome everybody.
Well,
Just doesn't matter what your background is or what shape, size. We work it in. We make everything accessible, and we're welcoming. It's comfortable. It's easygoing.
Perfect. Well,
We
we're so grateful that you could join us and
Very
that
much.
we make some space for us here. And we'd love to have you back on again if you'd like to talk more yoga, or I know you're into some other things too, the Ayurvedic, and so we'd love to have you on to discuss that. And we're just really grateful that you could
We
join
really
us.
are. We really are.
Well, I'm honored that you asked me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. And anyone else that's listening, looking forward to meeting you as well.
Okay,
Beautiful. Good
perfect.
stuff.
Well,
Great.
I hope everyone enjoyed this and hope everyone has a magical week, and we will see you the next
We
time.
sure will. Thank you.